myself, I wanted to do something else. And I moved into contemporary films. I know they did several more, and for whatever psychological reasons, I never saw them.
So I just want to commend the new issue of Video Watchdog. For those of you who are aware of this magazine, it's a great magazine. If you're not, you should be. It's the True Film Buff Bible. And this particular issue, which is the new one, has one of Roger's better interviews. You know, when you get, I can tell you this from my experience, when you get interviewed about the same things over and over, you do tend to fall back on that story or this story. But in this case, Roger was having lunch with me and Daniel Holler, who was his art director on these pictures, and he actually goes into areas that he very seldom has talked about before. And so I recommend this magazine in general, but I particularly recommend this issue, which is, I believe, on newsstands now, is the phrase, if there are indeed any newsstands left, aren't on the internet. So maybe we could open up for a couple of questions.
Before there are any questions, I would like to say one thing, because we're talking about my films, but I want to say something, because I know there's somebody here from the LA Times, and I think this should be publicized. A film Joe made, Joe and Elizabeth Stanley and my wife and I were having lunch before we came here, and I mentioned that in the TV series Masters of Horror, Joe made a picture called Homecoming, and I very seldom, yes, I very seldom do this. I wrote a letter to Joe saying that I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was one of the finest, not only TV movies, it was a great horror film about, as I recall, the spirits of the dead in Iraq coming back to haunt the members of the administration in Washington. Well, it was something like that. And I thought it was wonderful. It was the best of that whole series of films and one of the best things I've ever seen. And Joe mentioned that he is, as a result of that film, it's not that he's on a no-fly list. He has been put on some list that when he goes to an airport, he gets special attention. Really check him out because of this film that he made.
They love him.
Take this opportunity to say first how brilliant Joe's film was, but also what kind of a country are we living in when a filmmaker makes a brilliant film, which is a horror film, and suddenly the administration puts him on some sort of watchdog list.
Somebody, Roger's had a rather long career. A question or two, I would think.
I was just wondering if you'd share what it was like working with Vincent Price in all those films. He's one of my favorite actors. What was your relationship with him like?
My relationship with Vincent was very good. I chose him for the first of the Poe films, The Fall of the House of Usher, in which he played Roderick Usher, who was a refined, extremely sensitive gentleman, and Vincent fit that role. Being a very fine actor, played it wonderfully, and we worked together, I don't know how many times, 5, 6, 7 times. Afterwards, I have nothing but admiration for his work. One thing I do remember, because we always had these very elaborate sets for the Poe films, and we were sitting in one of these grand living rooms with a roaring fireplace in front of us, going over the script on the set, and he said, you know, it's a little disappointment when I go home at the end of the day, having lived all day long in these grand houses.
Hi. One thing that in your movies, in particular about these low-budget B movies, is that they have really good stories. I mean, but nowadays you could say that it's like so many of them, they're probably making more low-budget B movies now than ever, but you don't see any with good stories. Do you have any idea what's going on there or why things are changing?